Bring this meeting on February 18th, 2025 to order. And at this time, I would like to invite up Pastor Jonas Croissant from the Acts Church of Maricopa to give the invocation, and Councilmember Manfredi for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise if you're able.
Good evening, everyone. Let's pray. Our Father and our God, we thank you for this day. You are a kind God, merciful God. We come to you with thanksgiving and adoration, and I would like to pray, Lord, as for multiple things. First and foremost, for peace. There are multiple actors in Europe where things are shaping up for severe wars, and we pray for de-escalation and peace. We pray that the leaders would be seeking peace and that lives would be protected. Lord, I would like to pray as well for the prosperity of Maricopa. You tell us in the Bible that we should pray for the prosperity of the city where we live. So Lord, we pray that you would give wisdom to all the leaders of the United States and the governors, and also the city council members and all the individuals here today. We pray that the city would prosper, that it would grow economically, that there would be just judges, there would be also, as you command the leaders to be protecting the innocent and to punish the evildoers, that there would be systems to protect the innocent, also medical facilities and ambulances and anything that's needed to help those who are in need. Lord, I pray also for the most important thing, and that is to be reconciled with you. I pray that you would grant wisdom and grace to all who are here and all the leaders, that they would come to know your Son, Jesus Christ, and that they would be saved forever from your just judgment against those who disobey your commandments. Thank you for your Son who came on this earth, who was born of a virgin, who lived a perfect life, who died a death that he did not deserve in our place, so that we could be freely reconciled with you. We thank you for the God-man, Jesus Christ. And Lord, I pray for your blessings upon us and your kindness, and that we may be fearing you and loving you all the days of our lives. Amen.
Amen.
Please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Croissant, and thank you, Councilmember Manfredi. That'll take us to the roll call. Vanessa, please.
Councilmember Gettle.
Present.
Councilmember Knorr.
Present.
Councilmember Learman. Councilmember Marsh.
Here.
Councilmember Manfredi.
Here.
Vice Mayor Wade.
Here.
Mayor Smith.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We have no proclamations, acknowledgements, awards, and presentations tonight, so that'll take us to the report from the mayor. Council, what would you have to share? Yes, Councilmember Marsh.
So I had a busy couple of weeks since the last meeting. On the 6th of February, I attended the State Transportation Board meeting online, and they discussed their 5-year agenda. On the 7th, I attended the Pinell Partnership breakfast and was treated to a panel of mayors from 3 small cities in Pinell County. Later that day, I met with a camera crew from Microsoft. This year, they're celebrating Microsoft's 50th anniversary, and they came here to interview me for the big video that they're going to show at the big 50th event. It seems I had a major role in the company's growth in the late 90s and early 2000s. On the 10th, I attended the Pinell Partnership Water Resources Committee meeting. We're watching several water bills that are going through the state legislature. Also on the 10th, the Senior Advisory Committee met, and we got an excellent summary of the results of the Senior Info Expo from Chance Love. On the 11th, I attended the Pinell County Water Augmentation Authority Board meeting, where we're also watching water bills going through the legislature. On the 13th, Council had a very exciting day. It was an all-day planning meeting for the city's future. We had a presentation on land use and zoning from Andrew McGuire, a famous attorney. The topics included growth, inflation, project costs, strategic priorities, quality of life, policy discussion, council discussion topics. That's where I pushed for a new, larger senior center. If you want to help me get behind it, we've outgrown our senior center, and we need a new, larger one, especially if we're going to have a senior prom. So that's about it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Marsh. Councilmember Manfredi.
It's been a busy couple weeks. We had a subcommittee meeting for our budget that we're working on. And it's funny is that people think the budget happens in June and that's it. It just happens, right? A new budget comes into place. But in reality, when the new budget happens starting in July, the next budget starts, you know, and we start talking about what's going to happen, where it's going to happen, the capital improvement plan, and the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and where we're going to do roads and all that good stuff. So yeah, that happened a couple weeks ago. We had futures planning, like Bob mentioned. A lot was discussed. We talked about the transportation a lot. And we talked about how we're going to be able to get the 347 corrected with new lanes and all that stuff. So we talked a ton about that. You know, one of the cool things that happened, and the mayor is probably going to talk about it in a little while, is the Riggs Road overpass and how, you know, that started 5 years ago.
2021.
Yeah, so 4 years ago when our Representative Brett Roberts pushed a bill to start funding an overpass on Riggs Road. And now it's an overpass on 347 at Riggs Road. So different planning. But there was good news on that today, and I'll leave that to the mayor to discuss because she was there when they did a vote today. Tomorrow I'm going to be attending the MAG Transportation Policy Committee. And at that policy committee, what we did is, what MAG did, sorry, is in the county of Maricopa, some people call it the state of Maricopa, but in Maricopa County, they passed a bill for a half-cent sales tax. In that bill for a half-cent sales tax in Maricopa County, there's the ability for the 347 to be funded for additional lanes on the Maricopa side. But it's not until phase 2 of that. So what we'll be asking tomorrow at MAG, Transportation Policy Committee, will be hopefully to get that in the first phase of that so that we can start more planning and putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. So that's one of our meetings, one of the meetings tomorrow. On the 21st, a lot of us from the city of Maricopa will be attending the State Transportation Board meeting. The mayor asked me to drive, but they really don't want me to do that. So we're going to be going up to the State Transportation Board meeting to discuss, of course, the same thing. And I don't know if you've seen, but there's kind of like a theme. It's called the 347. And that is part of every transportation meeting in the state of Arizona, whether we're there or not, I believe. Somebody's asking about the 347. And then I recently met with a group, and they're looking to bring to the city of Maricopa a different type of business / nonprofit where they can work with kids. They already exist here in the city of Maricopa, but they're wanting to build something very big, which is going to be really cool. I can't talk much about the details of it, but I think everybody's going to love it when it happens. But these are the things that we do as a council all the time. So whether we get up here and we talk about it on our microphones, but you know, or we just say, "Nah, I got nothing this week." These are the things all the time, nonstop, that this city council, all 7 of us city council members, 6 council members and the mayor, 5 council members, the vice mayor and the mayor, right? All 7 of us are always doing nonstop. You might not hear from us all the time because we're not big horn tooting people. But we're out there and we're making sure that Maricopa as a city is getting the best representation it can get. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Manfredi. Councilmember Noor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, I wanted to remind everybody that Copa Cultural Night is this weekend at Copper Sky from 5 to 8 p.m. And as one of the liaisons to the Cultural Arts and Affairs Committee, with the city. They will have a booth out there. The CAAC committee will have a booth at Copa Cultural, talking about all of the wonderful arts opportunities within the city and how you can get involved. But there'll also be lots of entertainment and other booths and vendors, and it's one of the events I look forward to most each year, and I hope to see you out there.
Thank you, Councilmember Noor. Vice Mayor Wade.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was kind of busy last couple of weeks as well, but on Friday, I attended the beginning of the African American Legislation Group, which is held at the state capitol. It's the 23rd year that they've held the activities there. So, and it's an extended program. Every day there's either a day or night program. They had youth representative. I unfortunately was not able to attend it on the day because I was in, which is my next effort, which we talked about the strategic planning. So the futures planning session, I was unable to attend one, but did attend that, which was very important, and it was well conducted by the staff. The staff was right on point. The articles, the issues were being presented and addressed, and then we moved on to the next. There was no delay, and you could tell a lot of work had gone into it to make sure that it was a good activity, and the guest speakers were good as well. And fortunately, I was able to answer a question correctly and got a little token from the one of our speakers, and it was nice. It was very well done. I also attended on the 13th the Leading Edge's third annual Black History Month celebration, which featured a ride on the Underground Railroad. I don't know if any of you have attended or have seen this program, but it's the kids put it together, the kids performed it, they evaluated it, and it was really a great program. They talked about the Underground Railroad, its inception, its use, and the folks that were able to get from slavery to freedom through the Underground Railroad. It was really very good. They also had a Black History program as well, where they featured their school band, dancers, speakers. It was also very well done. And then on Saturday, as my co-liaison, our co-liaison, they mentioned the Copper Cultural Market from 5. Actually, I thought it was 5 to 9, if I'm not correctly, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's 5 to, I think it's 5 to 9. It's going to be held at Copper Sky Regional Park on February 22nd, which is Saturday. So, as Councilmember Manfredi pointed out, we put in the time. We do the work. We try to make sure that we're engaged as much as we possibly can be. There was a comment about answering emails and telephone calls. We do that, make sure that we get back and respond to you. And we thank you every day for allowing us to be able to be here to represent you, because the issues that you raise are important and critical to the growth of our city. And we have a lot of confidence in what you bring to us on a regular basis, particularly some of you that are on the commissions and boards. They're stepping outside yourselves a little bit more than the average, and we thank you for that. So, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Wade. All right, so as usual, most of my communication tonight is about 347. On February 6th, several residents spoke at our State Transportation Board meeting. Now, this February 6th meeting was a work session. It was solely for the purpose of their first draft review of the 5-year plan. So we had 5 people that spoke during this event, including myself, and definitely fighting hard for State Route 347, the full project, the widening, the intersections, everything that needs to happen on State Route 347 to get it into the 5-year plan funded. And as we talked about during the Futures meeting, you'll have opportunities to hear more about the specifics in terms of the partnership we are working very hard on with ADOT to make that happen. And it has a lot to do with the half-cent sales tax. So I encourage you, when we start to have those meetings, to come on out and learn the facts. Learn how important it really is to get this moving, because the timing is perfect. The one project during this meeting that they talked about, this is a meeting of, I don't know, about 100 projects within the state that are on the 5-year plan. And the one project out of all of the projects that they actually had a slide for was 347. We were the only project that was talked about in detail. And for us, that was wonderful news because they're hearing us and they're understanding that the partnership we're trying to create, the thinking out of the box, is very high in terms of potential of happening. And so that was the only project that they talked about in detail. You will also note that, and it was mentioned here, we will be taking another group to a state transportation board meeting Friday the 21st. And if you'd like to come, let me know. I'd be happy to have you. You can see how these things work. We do have a group of probably about 5, 6, 7, 8 going. And we will once again be making that cause because part of their meeting is on the 5-year plan. And we want to be in front of them every time we possibly can. Today we had a really exciting meeting at the Capitol, and I know I have 2 of the 5 folks who joined me today. If you would just stand up. I had 3. I see 3 now. Please stand up and let me give you recognition, and please give them a round of applause. They went to do something that's really unusual for residents, for people in the state of Arizona. They went to the Senate at the Capitol and they signed in to speak in front of the Senate Appropriations Committee on SB 1617. And if you think that's easy to do, it's not. It really creates a little bit of nerve, happening. Oh, Bill Robertson says no big deal at all. But they did phenomenal. They all spoke, and they spoke well in regards to supporting SB 1617, which is moving the funds from 2028 to 2026 for the Riggs Road 347 overpass. And so it was a wonderful dialogue. We had many of the appropriation committees want to speak on that topic. And so they, Senator Leach spoke out first, and he said, and I can't quote him exactly because he had a little bit of a foul language in there, let's get that thing done. And so we all were in support of that and clapped for him. But he gave them a history as well as the rest of us in terms of this bill was funded in 2021, and it's been put off because design hasn't been done. But just so you know, design is expected to be done in 2026, early 2026, and that's when we're asking in SB 1617 for these funds to be moved up to, so that they happen in a wonderful order that allows for going out to bid and going out to construction to happen very, very rapidly. So that was very good. And one thing I want to mention on that, 2 things. It was an 8-to-1 decision in favor of moving it to the next step. So that's very good. And the second thing, for any of you who have heard us talk about the 347facts.com letters that you send, one of the, well, actually it was the chairman. He says, if this gets you to stop sending me emails, I will vote yes. But I mean, he meant it sincerely as well. But it just goes to show you, because the rest of the senators that were on that committee all started laughing and shaking their head yes. So they're receiving your letters, they get this, they understand it. In fact, just because of SB 1617, we had 80 me in the last few days submit emails, 80 people to these senators, and they saw it loud and clear. Let me see, 2 more. Oh, in the last 2 weeks, an additional 66 people used that 347facts.com to communicate about the full widening. And so the numbers are just, I mean, we're well over 1,100 at this point in terms of individuals from the city of Maricopa that have communicated with our state legislators, state transportation board, governor's office, and now the supervisor's office. Supervisor Vidiello mentioned today to the senators, he gets these emails as well, so he completely understands what's happening. So I want to thank you all, because today was a really successful day, and we were actually videoed by Channel 15, and they asked our question, will you come back when this bill moves to the House? And they all said, Absolutely, 100%. So we're going to be there. It makes a big difference. I met with another mayor earlier this week, and he said, I got to tell you, Mayor, everywhere I go, when we start talking transportation, they're like, I don't know how Maricopa does it, but they've got this communication thing going down with their residents. And so it's huge. People recognize it. Even other mayors are recognizing it. And so it was a great day.
So, Mayor,
that,
if I could interrupt, Mayor.
Yes, please.
If I wanted to send one of these letters, where do I go to do
Yes,
that?
the easiest thing to do is 347fax.com/contact. That takes you right to the letter. But then if you want to go back after you send the letter, you can read all of the factual information, because people all the time say nothing's happening, city council doesn't care, city doesn't care. Go to 347fax.com, get the real scoop, and that's when you'll know exactly what's happening. Yes, it takes time. I'm sorry about that. I mean, Riggs Road overpass funding came in 2021. Here we are in 2025. But you realize we don't have control over that, but we're working it hard. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
I
That was
appreciate it.
347fax.com?
Yes,
Very good.
exactly, exactly. And actually, I was told that after the last city council meeting, that's when some of our numbers went up significantly. So take this and run with it. We really would appreciate that. So that brings us to the end of the report from the city council. City manager, this is your opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Not really an item as it relates to events or those kind of things, but really just kind of what's upcoming this time of year, and really starting with our agenda today. But we really get an opportunity to celebrate some of the great accomplishments that our staff has been able to achieve over the past year, really. We'll start to see annual reports coming from our police and fire department that have done some really tremendous things. We start to have the annual audit presentation today. As you mentioned, obviously the budget committee is now already working through the budget and all the work that goes into that. Just wanted to take a time to thank our staff. We have such a very capable, talented, dedicated staff that our community is not the same without them. And so it's a really good opportunity as we come through these next few months of agendas, as we're getting the budget on course, and we get the audit presentation tonight and the annual report presentations that come, really opportunities to celebrate all the many things that we are accomplishing in Maricopa. So just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you, city manager. I appreciate that, and I agree 100%. We have and are able to do wonderful things on a very limited budget because we have people that really excel. Okay, that takes us to the call to the public, and I do have one speaker card. Let me read off what the information is that you need for call to the public. The procedures to follow if you address the council are: council requests that you express your ideas in 3 minutes or less and refrain from any personal attacks or derogatory statements about any city employee, a fellow citizen, or anyone else, whether in the audience or not. The mayor will limit discussion whenever they deem such an action appropriate for the proper conduct of the meeting. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual members of the council may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the council, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, it's important to know members of the council shall not discuss and take legal action on any matters during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. So tonight, I do have one speaker card for call to the public, and I do have 2 speaker cards for additional items in the regular agenda. So if it's okay, we'll hold off on the regular agenda item so that we match it up with the agenda item. And then anyone who would like to approach the podium after my one speaker may do so as well. So Andrew Coots, please come forward. Thank you.
2 weeks ago, after speaking with the council, myself and fellow MCT board members were taken aside for a private conversation with a member of the Community Enrichment Department. From that moment, I sensed what was coming and predicted without surprise the announcement last week that the council had reneged on its promise to build a performing arts center at the old police station. I told the MCT boards I think it's a real possibility they pull back at this point. Unfortunately, I was right. In adversity, we find opportunities to listen, to learn, to change, and to grow. It's often during these times that a person's true character shows, revealing their real intentions. How one behaves in challenging situations tells you exactly who they are and what they stand for. This is where I learned who my people really are. Leadership isn't defined by speeches made or by how many road improvements one accomplishes. It's defined by character. The mark of a good leader is how they conduct themselves in difficult moments, how they rise above distractions and take responsibility when they fall short or break promises. A true leader knows when to own their mistakes and would never use their platform to issue ultimatums to the very organizations they claim to support. For example, phrases like, if you're not interested in the city working with the school to find out how a partnership can be created so that the arts have far more better quality venues, let me know. I'll stop the research and discussions. Let me know if you'd like us to stop researching the best options for venues in Maricopa. Phrases like these are not consistent with a self-motivated leader who is ready to compromise or put the collaborative effort needed to support nonprofits or arts organizations in the community. It reflects rather an intolerance for open discussion and a lack of willingness to do the work needed to accomplish the common goals. Where do we proceed from here? While I am uncertain of the city and the council's next steps, I am personally committed to continue to advocate for our cause. I will keep coming here to remind you of our presence and the potential for further support from the council, not only for our program, but all the others like it in the city. It is important to remember that it is you, the members of this council, who have publicly declared your support for the arts. We are simply awaiting tangible evidence of that commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Is anyone else would like to approach the podium and speak at this time? Seeing no one, I will put the call to the public as completed. We will then move on to the consent agenda. Tonight we have consent agenda 7.1 through 7. Let me see, gotta catch up. 6. Council, is there anything that you would like to pull? Any discussion you would like to have? Yes, Councilmember Marsh.
Mayor, I would just like to congratulate Micah and the staff on the 3 appointments to Judge Pro Tem. Angel Raymond and Richard Platt and Kevin White are awesome jurists, notable citizens of Maricopa, and I just wanted to congratulate staff on getting them into this job of Judge Pro Tem. Thank you.
Very good. Council members, any additional questions, concerns? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Councilmember Marsh for 7.1 through 7.6. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Gettle. Any additional comments, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. That'll take us to the regular agenda, and we will start off with agenda item 8.1, and we do have a presentation.
You're up. Hit a button.
Can you hear me now? All right. Good evening, Mayor Smith and members of the City Council. My name is Chris Everpido. I'm the Finance Manager for the city. I'm here today to introduce to you Christopher Heinfeld, who will be giving a short presentation on our fiscal year 2024 audits. Before introducing Christopher, I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge the efforts of my team this past year. As I'm sure all of you are aware, one of the directives of our City Council has been to do more with less. And I think our finance team is a great example of this. When compared to cities of a comparable size, generally their finance team is about 2 to 3 times larger than ours is. So I'd like to just acknowledge the efforts of my team, the fact that we got our financial audits out by the end of the year on time, received no audit findings. It's really a testament to the talent that our staff has and the hard work and dedication from our employees. So special thanks to the finance team. I'd like to acknowledge Trent Walls, Gia Jenkins, and Kat Fatana. And I'd also like to acknowledge LaSalle Blancarte and the contributions from the budget team. And with that said, I'd like to now welcome Christopher Heinfeld. He's an audit partner with Heinfeld Meach, who's our audit firm, and he will discuss the results of our fiscal year 2024 audits. Thank you.
All right. Mayor Smith, council members, thank you for having me here this evening to discuss the fiscal year 24 audit as well as the audit results. I'm here representing our firm, Heinfeld Meach & Company. We've been around for about 40 years. We specialize in governmental and nonprofit audits. This is sort of our niche, our space, what we do. Additionally, on the audit team besides myself is what we call our audit lead or the manager for the City of Maricopa audit. Between both of us, we have actually almost 500 different financial statement audit or compliance audit experience in supervising these engagements. So we're very familiar with the space here in Arizona, very familiar with the laws, the regulations, as well as everything that goes into the environment of doing an audit for a municipality here in the state of Arizona. With that, I'll jump into some general communications before we dive into the audit and the audit results. We begin each audit with an engagement letter. It sets out the scope of the audit, the standard procedures, responsibilities for management, as well as the auditors. This happened in May of 2024. We then were on site in August of 2024, performing our preliminary field work, usually a lot of tested controls work over your expenditures, whether it be payroll or non-payroll, but as well as your cash receipting systems. Then in November of 2024, we do a lot more substantive test work. So we look at your cash balances, your year-end accruals, your year-end revenue or expenditure balances, and test those as well. We provided a copy of the annual comprehensive financial report to management on December 4th, in which they were required to review it, ensure that the financial statements as presented appeared materially accurate, as well as complete any other items in the report that required management to do so. And then we actually issued the report on December 18th. As your finance manager mentioned, a big deal getting this done early this year. It was probably about 6 weeks earlier than the prior year, and that's just a lot to undertake in 1 year to make such a big turnaround. The scope of our services include performing an audit in accordance with U.S. generally accepted auditing standards, as well as government auditing standards, but also uniform guidance. Uniform guidance comes into play with your single audit and expending federal awards. We also issued 2 examination reports, one being on HERF monies and one being on the annual expenditure limitation report. We're required to let you know of any changes in accounting principles or policies that occurred during the current year financial statements. There was one GASB statement issued. It was GASB Statement 100. They hit the century mark finally, but it dealt with just accounting changes and error corrections. Didn't really play an impact on the financial statements this year, but did want to make you aware of that. We're also required to discuss any significant estimates. Estimates are always an important part in financial statements, and a lot of estimates go into some of these figures. However, the significant ones here are usefulized for depreciable assets, as well as your actuarial valuations. And the actuarial valuations are sort of out of your hand. It's something that ASRS and PSPRS handle, but did want to make you aware of those. Typically during this presentation, when we talk about audit results and how things mentioned, I got this nice big lead up to whether you have any findings or not. Your finance manager sort of stole the show a little, but I'm proud to let you know that there were no audit adjustments that were required for the financial statements that met any kind of level needing to be addressed with you. There's always trivial items that we note, things that we note with the finance team on how they can improve procedures, maybe record a transaction a little differently, but nothing that rose to this level of needing to report to you. Additionally, as mentioned, we did help the city draft their financial statements. It's considered a non-audit service, something that we're required to disclose to all of you. And so there's a few other non-audit services we perform as well, preparing the annual expenditure limitation report, preparing the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, as well as some other related items. And then we always like to make clear who's responsible for what. So who's responsible for the financial statements, who's responsible for detecting or identifying controls to detect fraud, and those responsibilities ultimately lie with yourselves in management. However, there are responsibilities on our side to inquire of different personnel throughout your city about whether they're aware of fraud, abuse, misuse, non-compliance, and we do it at all levels, and typically reach out to one of you as well to discuss how you think things are going and making sure you're getting the pertinent financial information you believe necessary. We do prepare the financial statements. We take great pride in that, but ultimately the responsibility of those do rest with management as well. All right, last slide here on required disclosures to all of you. If we had any disagreements with management, or if management was unwilling to sign our general representation letter at the end of the audit, we'd be required to let you know. Thankfully, in both cases, that wasn't the issue. And then additionally, we always assess our independence with our clients. It's something we take pride in, ensuring we're abiding by our professional standards and ethic responsibilities. With that, the related reports that we issue, and we're working on the last one, hopefully it will be issued here later this week, but the annual comprehensive financial report, the single audit report, and then the examinations that we talked about on HERF monies as well as the AOR. I'm going to spend most of my time talking about the annual comprehensive financial report, though. It's a large document. There's a lot going on in there. Just call your attention to a few different sections. Page 13, the independent auditor's report. If we felt like the financial statements could not be relied upon, we'd let you know in that letter. That letter is issuing what we call an unmodified opinion. It's a clean audit opinion on the financial statements. Management's discussion and analysis section on page 17. That's one of my favorites, just a great place for year-to-year comparisons. You can see whether revenues have changed and how much, whether assets have changed, whether the entities issued debt in the past year. Just a great year-to-year comparison. Page 29 starts your basic financial statements. There's two different sets of financial statements in there. Your first one deals with sort of these citywide financial statements, includes all activity, all assets, all liabilities, all revenues, all expenditures, whereas the next set of financial statements, your fund financial statements, really focus on sort of these buckets of operations, your grant funds, your general fund, your capital projects funds, your debt funds, and so a little easier to piecemeal on an operations side of things. And then in the notes to the financial statements, they start on page 43. They really detail all the information. So if you see a line item about capital assets and you want detailed information on that, you go to the notes, and the notes describe all the additions, all the acquisitions, all the disposals that occurred the past fiscal year related to those capital assets. The last few sections are required supplementary information and supplementary information, just a lot of additional information on budget to actual reports, individual fund reporting, and then lastly is the statistical section. This section sometimes is one of my favorites. Sometimes it's a love-hate relationship because the numbers don't always tell the story, but a lot of 10-year trend information. So you can look at how the city's grown the last 10 years, what's changed in terms of principal taxpayers or principal employers, how the debt capacity has changed, how revenue sources has changed. It's just a lot of good information. It is unaudited, but a lot of the information comes directly from the financial statements, so you can take faith in that. All right, so the single audit report, if we had findings, this is where they'd be. The report's about 8 or 9 pages long. The summary is what you want. It's on page 9. It's at the end of the report. It would tell you if there were any findings. So the first indication is there's no material weaknesses in internal controls, and there's no significant deficiencies in internal controls that we found needing to be reported. And then as part of that uniform guidance audit, we're doing an audit over your federal programs. We looked at your coronavirus federal program, the state and local fiscal recovery funds. Majority of your federal funding and expenditures came from that program this year, and so it's what we audited. Everything looked great, no internal controls over compliance, no issues with compliance related to that grant. So we reported no findings. Now we do report on prior year findings. So in the prior year, there was a finding related to revenue recognition and specifically for federal awards. I'm glad to say that we were able to evaluate that and determine that the city has corrected that issue, and so you'll note in the report that that finding's been corrected. And then lastly, I just would like to echo what your city manager and finance manager said. I think you guys are doing a lot with the people you have. You have a very talented pool of individuals working for you, not just in the finance team, but all over, because the audit does stretch across various departments when we're looking at specific items for transportation or specific items that come from HR. So I did want to just relay that message that you do have a very, very great staff here, and we really do enjoy working with them. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. Great presentation, Council. Yes, Councilmember Marsh.
Yes, thank you for the report. From time to time on social media, there are vocal claims about city council lining their pockets with taxpayer money. Your audit didn't seem to catch any of that.
No, we did not report any findings related to that. Councilmember Marsh.
Council, additional questions? Yes, Vice Mayor Wade.
Not a question, but thank you also for agreeing with us that we have an outstanding staff, and they work very, very hard to do what they need to do in order to make us look good. And we look forward to seeing you next year with an equally clean report.
Thank you very much, Vice Councilmember Wade.
Thank you very much. I don't think we have, oh yes, Councilmember Gettle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For our general public, this financial report, this audit report can be found online. It's a whopping 152 pages long. I spent much of my President's Day yesterday and weekend reading this, so thank you very much for the extra read time. But it's very simple to find. You simply go to the city clerk's website on the spot for agendas. You look up this item on tonight's agenda, and one of the attached files is that audit report. It's there for public to review, and you can look at all of these data tables and all the information that was provided here tonight. Thank you very much for your audit findings and the continued support we feel we receive from you in our processes and our plans. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that'll take us to item 8.2. We have a presentation from Rick Williams.
Madam Mayor, council members, thank you very much for allowing me to be here this evening. Would like to talk to you about an abandonment at the Grace Community Church. It's a request by the City of Maricopa on behalf of Grace Community to abandon two 8-foot public utility easements that are located on the church property. The abandoned easements will subsequently be acquired by the Grace Community Church, and there is no compensation involved with this. Directing your attention to the exhibit on the screen there, outlined in yellow is the location of the two 8-foot public utility easements. And you can see kind of in a upside down L shape is the Grace Community Church property. And just while I'm here, because I'm getting ready to go to the next slide, but I just want to, if you look directly below that yellow line to the south, it's not aligned properly based on the lines on the map, but that is essentially the alley easement that runs behind that property. And then if you notice right there where the yellow and the blue line meet there, the alley turns left and heads to the west. Essentially what we believe is that back in the day when this was done, they thought that we would have access directly north to West Hathaway Road. As we know, it never developed that way. Instead, the alley turned to the west and located in that direction. Per code, all the public agencies were notified with respect to the public utility easement companies. Notification letters were sent out. We posted on site, and we scheduled the February 18th hearing schedule. As of this evening, no public comments have been received by staff. And as I noted, the notification report is located in Exhibit D. We find that the abandonment request satisfies the following findings, and that is the original PUEs were associated with an old alley alignment, as we have already discussed. The alley was realigned. The city nor the utility companies have any plans to improve or use the easements in the future. With that being said, Madam Mayor, council members, we request your approval on this amendment before you this evening. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Rick. So let's go to open public hearing first. This is an open public hearing. Would anyone like to approach the podium and speak on this particular item? Very good. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Council, what questions, comments do you have? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Second.
Move to approve by Vice Mayor Wade and seconded by Councilmember Marsh. Additional time for questions, comments?
I just want to thank the city staff for bringing this forward, and I think it's important, like sometimes you can just, these things can just get lost and never fixed, and I just think it's so important, you know, when there's something there that doesn't need it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. So, any additional comments, questions? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much, Rick.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, our next item is 8.3. We have a presentation by Chief Patassi, and then I do have 2 speaker cards.
Okay, Mayor, Council, City Manager, Bitter, staff, it is my pleasure to speak to you today to address the next pivotal stage in the city acquiring ambulance service, and that is to adopt a resolution today to have the formal application being submitted this month. So quickly, just to review what a CON is and why we need to go through this process. So the CON is a Certificate of Necessity application through the Arizona Department of Health Services, who manages who can and gives the authority of who can and cannot run ambulances within the state of Arizona. The process is a regulatory review of an applicant to ensure that that applicant can run and financially sustain an ambulance service in a specific geographic area or boundary. And once we submit it, the process can go up to 24 months. So it's a quite lengthy process to go through. And why are we submitting this? So ultimately, we're meeting the City Council's Focus 4.4, which was to review and submit for gaining our certificate of necessity and developing an ambulance transportation service within the fire department. Through this, we'll provide 100% of the emergency medical services pre-hospital care within the city, which is critically important. It's going to give us the ability to maintain a dynamic deployment model, so we'll be able to scale our services based on our community needs in the future. It also gives us the ability to be solely focused on the 911 side of pre-hospital care, and so we can, again, based on what our community needs, we can be able to scale accordingly and not be relying on a third party to do it. And ultimately, we're also going to be provided a consistency in service. So we're going to deploy 4 ambulances dedicated within the city with 2 additional ambulances that can be deployed as needed. They're going to be staffed with Maricopa firefighters that are trained to a consistent standard with standardized equipment and a very low turnover, as we historically have seen in the fire department. Ultimately, if we get authorization to submit the application, we will have this resolution approved, hopefully today, submit the application this month. It will be September or October of this year where DHS will do the first substantive review of our application. We may potentially have to go to a hearing with an administrative law judge. Once that's done, we'll get the decision on the CON approval. We will start phasing in our staffing and then be able to implement our CON and deliver pre-hospital care transportation needs to our community. And again, ultimately today is about saying thank you. You know, this has been a multi-year process. We've worked with multiple jurisdictions, but ultimately it's been under your guidance and strategic direction to lend the prioritization of the needs of our community, and that's ultimately what this is all about. This is providing the emergency medical service transportation need, and we can then provide that same, you know, incredible service that we're providing from the initial 911 call all the way to the transportation to the hospital. So we want to thank you. We appreciate the time and effort you've put into over these past years. And this isn't just the fire department. I'm representing multiple departments that have worked on this process throughout the city, through our executive team, the finance department, public works. and then the team that's helped us getting here, including our attorneys, Kathy Stedman and her team, which has been guiding us up until this pivotal point with that. So with that being said, open to any questions that may
Thank you,
arise.
Chief Patassi. I appreciate that. And I want to echo the great job. It hasn't been an easy road. It's been a very challenging road. Getting through this process is very challenging. I know that the citizens would like to hear the fact that we hired the best consultant that understands and has gotten many of these approved through the state. So I have high hopes with that, and I appreciate that wisdom that we've received there. But you guys have worked very hard on it, and I definitely appreciate it. I'm really delighted that we're at this point. So, council members, what questions do you have? Yes, Councilmember Gatto.
Yeah, no questions, but again, thank you, Brad, to you and your team and everything that's been put together, and to my fellow colleagues here on the dais. This is another piece of the forward-looking puzzle that we're putting into place that will help improve the quality of life of our residents, to be able to provide that medical safety net that we desperately need. So we're grateful that this is being brought forward us tonight, and I do recommend its passing. Thank you.
Additional questions, comments? Very good. I do have 2 speaker cards, and we can come back to council comments if you think about something. First speaker card is Supervisor Rich Vidiello.
Mayor, City Council, I'm here to support this 100%. It's been a long road. As a former council member, I was up there with you guys when we first brought this to the staff, and I want to thank Brad. I want to thank city manager, past city managers, past city council members, past mayors for putting this into effect. And I'm just here to support it and tell you this is a great thing for our city. We won't have to rely on that other company that sometimes takes a little bit longer. These guys get to your house within 3 to 4 minutes. I know that because I've had a few falls, and they showed up right away. So I just want to thank you and support this 1,000% and tell you, please prove this tonight, guys, because I know it's important to you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Second person I have is Peg Chapados.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I was thrilled to see this on tonight's agenda because it has been a long road, but you guys are all about resolve and resolutions. Maricopa's ready, the citizens are ready, Maricopa Fire and Medical is ready, and I'm hoping I hear a unanimous approval. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All right, council, one last time for questions, comments.
I would like to make a motion.
Please do.
Beat you. That we approve the item 8.5.
3.
I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong number. Yes, thank you very much. 8.3.
Very good. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Knorr. One more last opportunity for questions, comments?
I wasn't going to make a motion, so I was just going to say if the supervisor's here giving 100% support, I was hoping he'd pay for the ambulances out up and out town. That's just me. I'm always looking for a deal somewhere, but no, I'm full support.
Very good. All right. Seeing no other comments, questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. There you go. Very good. We have the next agenda item, 8.4. Actually, 8.4, 5, and 6 are all related. I believe there's one presentation. Would that be correct, Josh? Okay, Josh will be giving us our presentation. And then Supervisor Vidiello, I believe I interpreted your speaker card to, okay, we'll call on you then. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity. I think this works well with the agenda item that just went and the CON. So we got just a few slides. I'm going to be introducing some concepts of what could be here. To do that, I'm actually going to pass some time over to members of the development group. So that's going to be AJ Thomas and Jesse Slim. So I'll introduce them and let them talk a little bit about this project and a little bit about themselves.
Thank you, Josh.
Hi, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our vision for Copper Sky Medical Campus. Before I go into the presentation, just a quick introduction on our quals and who we are as a company and myself too. I am, as Josh mentioned, AJ Thomas. I'm the president of BR Healthcare Real Estate Development. From a qualification standpoint, I'm an architect by training, 20 years plus dedicated to healthcare architecture. I specialize in healthcare. I'm a board certified healthcare architect. Local to Arizona. My company, BR Companies, is based out of Glendora, California. And want to also introduce my colleague here, Jesse Slim.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Smith, council members. Thanks for having us tonight. I am happy to be here with AJ to present this project for your consideration. Fun fact, actually, this City Hall was actually one of my first projects that I got to work on. I too come from an architectural background, so it's really great to be back in this building and seeing it in action. And I think with the project that you're about to see, that's really what we're all about, is not necessarily the architecture or the real estate, but what can happen within it and filling a need for the community. So we are happy to present these next couple of slides as a concept for Copper Sky.
Thank you, Jesse. It's always fun to be in a building which you're part of design and see how it fared out, right? So I'm going to walk you through basically 3 slides. These are renderings and very conceptual in nature. On the bottom part of your screen is, just to orient you, is John Wayne Parkway, and on your left, running north-south, is Bolin, just to give you an orientation of the site. And the first building that you see at the corner is an MOB, that's a medical office building, and then connected to that is the hospital, that's the acute care hospital. On the far top side of the building is what you see is a parking garage and residential. And intermingled in there is some retail amenities. And to the very top, you can see where the word P, where you have campus and the letter P, there you can see a helicopter there. I guess it's a little hard to see, but just an orientation of the different things that are going on in the site. So this is a view from John Wayne Parkway. On the left side is that MOB, and right side is the hospital. Again, the concept is to create a campus setting, not like a true huge institutional kind of a architectural flavor. This is back from inside, where you see the coffee, the amenity side of things that go on to assist the healthcare development. So with that, I'll go a little bit in detail, mentioning what is our vision for this campus. What we are trying to solve here is trying to solve a deficiency for the city of Maricopa for primary care, specialty care, and inpatient care. So those 3. So how are we going to solve that is the MOB, that's a medical office building. That is going to be anywhere from 30,000 to 80,000 square feet. The range is because these are done in phases. So phase 1 will be 1 MOB, and then the next MOB. The first MOB will have an ASC, lot of acronyms here. An ASC is an ambulatory surgery center. You'll have the ability to have outpatient surgery there. In healthcare, the trend is where more of these surgeries are happening on an outpatient basis rather than an inpatient basis. There's more demand for that, and it's much more cheaper for the patients too. Then you have the inpatient side, that's the hospital. What our vision is, again, we are developers, a critical importance thing to understand. We're talking to all the 4 major hospital systems in the state because of NDAs. I can't mention the names, but you will know who they are, like in all the four major, except for Mayo, because they're not there, so I can mention their name. The space program for the hospital is dependent and contingent on what the operator wants. So what we have said, and from a developer standpoint, is at a minimum, we'll have a 24-bed hospital. And the operator can say we would want a 60-bed hospital or an 80-bed hospital, but at a minimum we'll have a 24-bed hospital and a comprehensive ER with imaging modalities there, like from MRIs, CTs, and an X-ray. Then I want to touch also on the residential part. The residential part is an ancillary to the medical campus. So it works as a support to the healthcare side of things. So for example, there would be traveling nurses. There would be temporary staff who would want accommodation there. So we're envisioning this as a one campus, like where you can provide all those solutions for the medical staff that would be housed in the property. I think one more thing, you saw that helipad there, just to give you an idea of our vision of how we want this to be a comprehensive medical campus. The talks with the hospital operators are, if they choose to keep that helipad on top of the hospital, that frees up that space. Our plan is like if we can provide a daycare center for the hospital staff that visit, then again, that all-encompassing, you don't have to go anywhere. We're trying to make it as easy and attractive. It's easy to build a hospital, but it's harder to attract talent to staff the hospital. So we're trying to accommodate the staff side of things. That's the intent where we're going with all of this. So that's kind of in a nutshell a summary. Jesse, do you want to add anything?
No, I think that's a good summary.
Yeah, and I think the last slide is just questions.
Thank you very much. Council, what questions do you have? Councilmember Marsh.
Thank you for the innovative ideas. Is your company associated with Nutex Health?
No, we're
No.
not. I assume they were the previous operator planning to set up the hospital, right? If I understand correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, our company is not associated with
Okay. Are you concerned that this is a micro hospital, right?
Not necessarily. So a micro hospital would be, the definition would be less than 20 beds.
Okay. Are you concerned at the positioning of this hospital, the location of it, half a mile from our community hospital, pre-existing?
The answer is no, because when a hospital operator decides to consider a site, it's basically data-driven. When you present the data from Maricopa, the city's growth, and the outbound spend that goes out of Maricopa to other cities, it's a no-brainer essentially for hospitals who are not receiving that outbound spend. City of Maricopa is sending out almost $1 billion out in healthcare to other cities. So if I can explain this without taking names, the people who are receiving this spend are some hospital operators, right? We're all going to somewhere to take care of our healthcare needs. But if you talk to their competitors and say, hey, there's $1 billion getting out of Maricopa, they would be very much interested in setting up a shop here. So to answer your question, the city, wherever, is a good location. Mm-hmm. The specific site does not matter. It is absolutely a fantastic, roadside, but the actual location is not that important, in my opinion.
Okay, the city of Maricopa is on a path to grow to 250,000 people shortly, then 500,000, and even 1 million possible. We've got the water to do it. We've got the land to do it in our planning area. Can this hospital scale to grow with the city?
So, excellent question, Councilmember Marsh. As I said, one idea, so the way we are planning this out is the residential portion that you saw will never be the first part that we build. When we have these conversations with the operator, if they say instead of 24 beds, they need, one of the operators actually asked, what if there is just one hospital in the entire site? So that could be a 120-bed hospital. Just to give you a reference of scale, how big that is your Banner or Cotillo Hospital. That is a 120-bed hospital. So in healthcare, from a planning side, we always plan for expansion. So the answer is absolutely yes, considering the city growth and all. So where I was going with the residential portion is, the residential portion will scale back to accommodate the growth for the hospital expansion.
Yes, I remember Desert Samaritan in Mesa. My kids were born there in the 1980s. I think there were 2 buildings there then. Now it's, 9 or 10 buildings and hundreds of beds. And it's now called Banner Desert.
Yes. I am your greatest cheerleader for wanting a hospital here in the city. I was at a side talk, I was at a summit last week, and everybody in that audience, 200 people heard, we want a hospital in the city of Maricopa. You have a very good story, you have very good data supporting the need. We just need to get the hospital operators interested, wanting to set up shop. Once they set up shop, I'm confident that the data supports the extended growth that you're all envisioning and want and deserve for the city.
There was a story in the press, I think it was last week, about a young woman who was about to give birth, and she showed up at our community hospital, and they turned her away because they don't provide that service. And she had her baby on the 347 north of town. Can we get a maternity section in this hospital?
We will have ORs. An OR should be able to do that in an emergency situation. I can't speak specifically for the program as in a C-section room or, a delivery LDR. That is dependent on the operator specifically.
Good luck finding the right operator.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
To that point, I'm not sure those facts are correct. The hospital currently in Maricopa did not turn anyone down that was pregnant. We've actually delivered babies there. And along those lines, the hospital that Mr. Thomas is explaining to us would be under the same situation as the existing hospital if that woman would walk up to it. That hospital he's explaining does not have any additional services. However, all hospital ERs will deliver a baby if you walk in there. It's EMTALA laws, and they're happy to do it and make sure everyone is safe and then transfer them to the appropriate locations. And like I said, the hospital here in Maricopa, there was an article in Maricopa about a year ago where a baby was delivered in Exceptional Hospital and then transferred up for additional care, the baby and the mom. So I just feel like that's important clarification. I have other questions.
Please go.
Has your group, your development entity, built a full-scale hospital? Do you have any projects that you can tell us about?
Sure. We actually own a hospital in Kansas, Fort Kansas, so that's a subsidiary of BR, Legacy Health. It's a 22-bed hospital, and the projects that are under development right now are in California. So behavioral health and a huge replacement hospital again, NDAs come in play, but it's a 364-bed hospital.
Great, thank you. I have other questions for staff, but should I ask those now? Or should I wait?
Let's hold off on the staff questions. Because I do have one speaker card as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Yes, Vice Mayor?
Could you briefly give us an understanding or an explanation as to how you determine the operator that you're going to go with and how it relates, how that operator attaches to us?
Sure. There is already some guidelines that we have entered with the city from on the negotiation of the land, as in the minimum stipulation. So the operator has absolutely to meet that minimum criteria, right? You know, the 24-bed criteria, the comprehensive ER criteria, those have to be met. The second part is like, you know, the viability of the operator. So looking at the financials and everything, like, you know, making sure this operator that we enter into an agreement has the financial wherewithal to continue operations. Those would be the two things.
And so you mentioned 22, 24 beds. What's the next level, and how do we get there other than what you just explained?
That is an operator-specific question, like, you know, but I'll try to attempt to answer it. They try to, hospital operators typically start with the smallest size and they scale it up in a newer community. You can take examples like, you know, a good one would be Sonoran Health in North Phoenix. It started out very similar to what we are doing here, and they ramped it up to 3 times the size within 4 or 5 years. The first 2 years are stabilization of operations, and then we could have an LDR and LDR piece and all of that. That would be most probably phase 2, phase 3 is how I see, but phase 1 would be what we have stipulated in our purchase agreement conditions.
So 22 or 24 is the
24
minimum?
is the minimum.
24 is the minimum. Okay.
And when we say 24 beds, they don't include the treatment bays in an ER. So they are excluded out of that. And just for size comparison, what we have at Exceptional Health, you know, is a 9-bed hospital. And then, like, you know, so that gives you a sense of scale, perhaps.
No, I appreciate that clarification. So when you say 24-bed hospital minimum, that means 24 inpatient beds plus additional ER beds? It won't just be 24 total? It'll be 24 inpatient beds?
Correct.
Okay.
Very good. Additional questions, council members?
Mayor, if I may, I want to pull us a little bit back to our agenda item here tonight and just remind us that we're not necessarily planning future that'll be coming to our various committees and P&Z, specifically on site plans and what exactly is going to be built. But I do want to just focus council's attention on item 14 of the contract, and maybe just state for the public's understanding is that we're asking a lot of questions because we want to make sure that we're bringing the right type of hospital to Maricopa. So you may sense a little bit of hesitancy up here. I don't want to characterize that as hesitancy. We're excited about this project. I know I'm excited about this project, and we want the very best for our residents here, but we also want to make sure it's appropriate for what we're bringing in. And so on the contract that we're thinking about here tonight is under 14C is, I think, one of the most important ones that talks around what we're asking. The hospital shall have approximately 24 to 54 beds and include imaging functions, CT, MRI, X-ray. The second phase of the hospital will include specialty services, including a cath lab and other advanced medical services based on operational needs within the community. The MOB, the medical office building, shall provide a variety of medical services, including ambulatory surgical center, ASC, with an approximate total medical office space of 30,000 to 80,000 square feet. The MOB, excuse me, the MOB and hospital shall also include any necessary improvements as set forth in the city standards rules and regulations, including but not limited to areas for parking and landscaping. And there's several other stipulations there in the agreement, but I just wanted to call our attention to that this is what these developers are wanting to bring to our community, which I'm very excited for. And I think it is the right step forward in our growth to be able to provide those services here locally. And we're right to be concerned and cautious about what we're ultimately going to build here, but I'm confident that our developers have the right vision in mind, and they are held by contractual obligation to provide at least that minimum service to our community.
Thank you, Councilmember Gettle. I think it's important to read that off because it is available publicly online. Yes. But for those here and those listening, I think it's really important to understand what is included in the services that are promised in the contract. Very good.
And to that point, Member Gettle, I appreciate that and I agree, which is why I asked the attorney about those stipulations and what's enforceable in terms of those stipulations. And I was told earlier today that the phase 1 portion of the hospital, which is the 24 beds and the imaging, is enforceable, but that the phase 2, if it's not built, we have no recourse. So I just think that's important. I know the council wants all the information possible when we vote on things as important as this. And I think transparency and accountability to the public are important. And should phase 2 not happen, I think it's important that, you know, we're all aware that we don't have any recourse, any stipulations in the contract to go back and require that or to take it back or any of those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to call up our one resident that would like to speak on this subject, Supervisor Rich Vidiello.
Mayor, I'd like to hold off after hearing that there's going to be more questions and hear from staff. I'd like to hold off so someone has to maybe get the answer that I need to.
Sure. Sure, very good. Okay, so therefore I will go back to Councilmember Knorr's questions, and keep in mind any new legal questions we would have to go into e-session for. So I'll let Dennis handle that as needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. So I wanted to talk about the fact that we have no opportunity if phase 2 isn't built to go back. But based on the conversation just now, it was my understanding that there was no residential as part of this deal. That was on the initial contract, and then it was taken out. And the developer is talking about residential and has showed us pictures about residential, so can you explain that to me?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Knorr, I think you're right. The original agreement had that. The contractual obligations or contractual rights regarding residential have been removed. But as part of the PAD, if they have room in the PAD where the hospital or medical office complex is going to be, they may propose that, but that's something that can be decided while the PAD process is going forward. But they don't have a contractual right for residential, but it could be part of the PAD process.
Great, thank you. So to clarify, it's not in the current contract. It was removed. They could propose it in the PAD, but we are not obligated to approve apartments or residential as part of this development.
Yes, Councilwoman, that's correct.
Okay, and it would require city approval to build any residential.
Right.
Okay.
Very good. Anything else, Councilmember Knorr?
Yes, I do have more
questions. Please go.
And again, I know the answers to a lot of these questions, but I believe in transparency and accountability to the people of Maricopa, and so I want to make sure that the people of Maricopa know that I've asked these questions and what the answers are. And so, do we have an appraisal on the land that we're selling?
We do not have a current appraisal on this land.
We do not have a current appraisal. And then the price per square foot that the agreement entails, is it the same price per square foot of the agreement 2.5 years ago?
Councilmember, I believe it is the same. So this was out as a bid, as the city does with any of this land, put out.
Right, yeah, that's correct, it's a bid.
Apologize, get a little closer. So this was bid put out by the city for medical services at this area. The bids that came in, this is what was awarded.
Right. Was it the highest price bid?
Correct.
Okay. So just for knowledge purposes, I think as we go forward and the city is selling land, it's important for us to have an idea of what the value of the land is. That's how I feel as a council member. I would like to know what the appraised value is of land before we send it out for bid or before we take offers. And because of that, in this particular case, I did my own research and I got comps of land of similar specs around the area. And what I found when I did that research was that at a minimum, this land is worth at least $1.10 more a square foot than what we're in contract to sell it for. And so I think that, A, it's important to know that as we move forward. And I think it's important for us to consider that as we move forward, not only in this deal, but in future deals, because as we've talked about in futures planning and in other discussions about pay for police and fire, our city has a significant disadvantage in terms of revenues collected compared to cities similar to our size because we have such immense sales tax leakage. And so when there are opportunities for us to gain revenue in creative ways like selling land, I think we need to make sure we're capitalizing on that and getting every dollar that we can so that we can then reinvest those dollars into police and fire and a senior center and whatever else it is that the community thinks that we need or the services that are essential to keep our public safe. And so it really does give me extreme heartburn to not know, well, I know based on my research, but that we don't have an appraisal on this land as we move forward because I'm very concerned that we are selling it for much less than it's worth.
Very good. Any additional comments, questions? Yes, Councilmember Gettle.
Yeah, and to that point, if I may, Mayor, I appreciate Councilmember Noor's concern and agree that those extra funds would be very helpful in providing emergency services to our fire and police. But also, our council needs to consider that this land was put in holding decades ago for this very purpose, to bring something that's very, very needed and necessary for our community. And in those prices 20 years ago, compared to what we are currently under contract to sell these, or will be, assuming we approve this contract tonight, selling this property for, there's plenty of a profit margin there to recover any of the city's initial costs in purchasing the land to begin with. So we're not necessarily selling this land at deficit. In fact, I would argue a substantial profit that would then be helpful to continue other things too. So I'm sensitive to that, and I do think we do need to be mindful of those comps and have those appraisals in the future. But I think in this particular, we also have to weigh what is coming into that site and the value that that hospital will bring to our community, and the fact that we have planned to bring something like this to that area for a long time. And these developers seem to be able to hit hopefully a home run. So
Thank you, Councilmember Gettle. Yes, Vice Mayor.
So with all due respect to the research that Councilmember Gettle presents, it is still, quite frankly, more important for us to have accurate and confirmed information before we make a decision about moving forward on the purchase of the land or the sale of the land, the sale of the land to the developer, so that we will be able to convince and have the public appreciate the time that we put into it to make sure that it was correct. And yes, I agree that the contractual agreement that we would adhere to would be based on the experience I think that the council members have collectively. We should be able to come up with something that would be reasonable and not rush into, I'll use the term rush, and not rush into the process when we have our other entities available to continue planning and zoning, the other entities that would be involved in moving forward with the contract.
Very good. I will add to the conversation, I think both points are valid. And I don't know that I would necessarily agree with the concept of rush into. This has been something we've been dialoguing for 2-3 years in terms of the need in our community for a substantial hospital. And so I think it's been well discussed and well understood, and many cities do this in regards to property that they own in terms of having it directed toward a service that will benefit our community. And the question really is, do you feel like this is going to benefit our community? That's really the value that you're seeing here. Yes, we can look at comparable prices. Yes, we can look at the values. But when you come to really understand what the point is tonight, you're saying, I believe this contract states that we are going to get something valuable to our community that will be able to save lives, you know, birth children, all kinds of different things. Have surgery here and be able to spend the night in a hospital with, you know, the necessary needs that patients have. So that's the question you have to ask yourself, in my opinion, tonight. Yes, Councilmember Marsh.
And also, we want it to be able to scale up and grow with our city.
Exactly, exactly. 100% agree. Is there any more conversation, questions, concerns?
Sure.
Yes, Councilmember Noor.
To your point, Mayor, I agree that we're really assessing the value. And I just want to again reiterate that I would feel a lot more comfortable if this contract required the phase 2 and we had recourse so that we knew we were getting a full service hospital. But under this contract, we do not have guarantees. The only guarantee we have under this contract is an ER hospital, which are the services that already exist in Maricopa today. And I think that's an important distinction. And I agree with Vice Mayor Wade that you know, it may be beneficial to take some time and strengthen that language so that we can guarantee that the land we sell to the developer, we get what we want built on it. I just think that's important. We have that ability. If this was a private entity, if this was private land, they could do whatever they want, and that's great, and they should. But this is city-owned land that we kept to put something spectacular on, but this contract we're considering today does not guarantee us spectacular. It does not guarantee us that. It guarantees us what we already have, and we can sit here and hope that we get more than that, and that's my concern.
I don't necessarily know, and maybe we can ask the question, that it guarantees us what we already have. We don't have a cath lab.
It doesn't guarantee us a cath lab. That's phase 2.
Based on the way that I read the documentation, it does. Maybe we can look for clarity.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The phase 2 of the hospital is what includes the cath lab and other advanced medical services. The surgery center is part of the medical office buildings. So that aspect of the agreement is part of the medical office buildings. So, so the ambulatory surgery, all those things are part of the medical office.
To that point, the cath lab is phase 2, which the attorney told me is not guaranteed and we have no recourse, correct?
Councilmember Noor, I would appreciate it if we keep our conversations with our city attorneys confidential. Okay?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't,
Thank you.
it wasn't an executive session, so I
No,
didn't.
I know it wasn't, but I'm just saying, if you want to talk about legal issues, let's have an executive session. That would be the best way to go forward.
Okay, sure, maybe we should go to executive session.
Do you have a motion to move to executive session? Okay. Further comments, questions? Do I have a motion?
I'd like to move to executive session. I'd like to make a motion, please.
Do I have a second to move to executive session? Seconded by Vice Mayor Wade. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Yes. I think at this point we've already moved to e-session. All right. Do I have a motion to come out of e-session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Wade. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Do I have a motion to go back into regular session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Marsh. Any opposed? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right. I would like to call up Supervisor Vidiello to make a comment.
I thought it was on. Madam Mayor, Council, Rich Fidiello, resident of City of Maricopa, the City of Maricopa. So, first of all, I'd like to say that I am 100% for a full-service hospital. So I just want to make sure you guys understand that. I'm not against this project, but I'm interested in a full-service hospital. Some of my questions, which I believe some of the questions were asked, about the appraisal. I guess my question is, why wouldn't you won't sell your house without appraisal? Why would we why would we sell a piece of land without knowing what the land may be really worth? Especially back in the day, we sold this for approximately $7, $7.25 several years ago when we were at the first hospital that was trying to come in. You know, Maricopa is the fastest growing city in Pinell County, and we are one of the largest cities in the state of Arizona. We need a full-service hospital. I'm going to keep using the word full service because I believe this seems to be a little bit more of a micro-hospital. Some of my other concerns, which I hope you guys might be able to answer when you guys come back into session, if they do not build phase 2, my main concern is that if they start putting a building up on phase 2, I believe in the contract it states that we would be able to buy the land back, but we would have to take over. Let's just say they put $2-3 million into it and they stop. We would buy the land back at our current price, but we would have to also pay for what they've built. Unless I'm wrong about that, which I hope maybe you might be able to answer now, but that's a big tax burden on the taxpayers of the city of Maricopa. I don't want to get stuck with a partially built building. And then really, the only thing I really want to make sure you guys understand is that we need a cath lab, we need a surgical center, we need to have babies able to be born here in the city. So again, I just want to make sure you guys understand, I'm not against a full-service hospital. That's what we need, and that's what I hope this place would be. But from what I had, too many ifs, maybes, and buts. That's what I kind of heard too many times. That concerns me, and it should concern you. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Council, what questions, comments, direction?
Mayor, the contract language, to me, is not as strong as I'd hoped I'd like to see. I'd like to make a motion to table this agenda item and come back at a future time to have further discussion.
I have a motion to table. Do I have a second? I have a second from Vice Mayor Wade. Any additional comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. That will bring us to the end of our agenda tonight.
Madam,
Yes. Oh, thank you very much.
My apologies.
Yep.
Yeah, I would like to amend my motion to table the next three items, 8.4, 8.5, and 8.6, all three items.
And Vice Mayor Wade has amended his second. Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. We're adjourned.
was there an over-under when the council meeting was getting over?